last week, Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler was made official by Dana White. They say they're fighting, they have a date, but what really stuck out, Chael, is that Michael Chandler said, I would not be surprised if all of a sudden that bout agreement comes over and says for the 165-pound title. You never know. It should be for a belt. Let's see if we don't make one up. Chael, two things, right? Two things. One, the 165-pound division debate starts again. But two, Chael, there's still no bout agreement. He said when the bout agreement comes, maybe it'll say for the 165-pound belt. There's still no bout agreement. But even more importantly, what do you think about 165 coming up again?
Well, okay, so Michael Chandler's the source. So I just want to reframe this for anybody that's just tuning in. Michael Chandler has said that this fight might be for the 165-pound title. Now, Michael Chandler has also said the agreed-upon weight class is 170 pounds. Michael Chandler has also said he assumes this is the main event of International Fight Week, but that he hasn't actually been told that. Michael Chandler also says that Conor McGregor behind the scenes, and he observed this while living with him to do The Ultimate Fighter last year, happens to wear a toupee. He also stated that Conor McGregor is a loud eater and that he does in fact wear dress shoes without socks. That does not make him look cool. It just gives his feet blisters. So, which of those Michael Chandler quotes do you want to take and bring on ESPN as though we're reporting the news? This is not accurate. It's entertaining. There is no need for a 165-pound title. For one. Part two, the commission does not sanction 165-pound fights. Part three, the UFC does not contest a 165-pound division. Part four, these guys combined are coming off of more losses than I have had in my entire career. So if anybody's coming back to fight for a mythical belt, it will be yours truly.
Chael, Michael Chandler said. That's like the way you started every one of your statements, because the only person that we get talking about this is Michael Chandler. We have said this since the very beginning. Chandler wants this fight, and he has made no secrets or made no bones about it. This is what he wants. He wants to happen. I imagine now it is happening. 165, I believe that. So here's my thought process, right? When it comes to championship opportunities. I have said this time and time again, Chael. A lot of times it comes down to being in the right place at the right time. Whereas, even going back to me, they had no intent on giving me my first championship opportunity. But when Alexander Gustafsson got hurt, they called me in. I stepped in. I never left the title picture after because I was reliable. They could always call me and say, hey, you want to fight this guy for the belt? It was also the same way with Dustin Poirier right now. We see it happening where if you're in the right place, at the right time, under the right circumstances, sometimes it happens faster. I believe that is what Michael Chandler is saying may happen right now. Because I believe that if they're going to do a 165-pound division, it should have a name attached to the weight class that is so big that it draws people's attention. Conor McGregor being that name. Michael Chandler, on the other hand, will benefit, Chael, from being in the right place at the right time, where these guys will then fight for the super lightweight championship of the world, because that's what I believe it is, because only 10 pounds heavier than 155. So let's call it super lightweight division, move 170 to 180, to 175, move 185 to 195, keep 205, put heavyweight. That's my thought. I believe Chandler saying 165-pound title might be right place, right time for Iron Mike Chandler. And let's call it super lightweight, Chael.
DC, I love everything you just said. I just am not in the same position as you. I am not so hurting for topics having no UFC this weekend that I don't know how else to fill the air over here, okay? There is no 165-pound belt coming. History of the UFC and the psychology of Dana White says I don't give anybody a world title opportunity that's coming off losses, let alone multiple. History of Dana White psychology says I don't give anybody a world title opportunity, even if they're the number one contender, if I have reason to believe they're not going to come back and defend it. He's still upset that George St. Pierre relinquished the belt after he beat Michael Bisping, and that was in 2017. I mean, not for nothing, these aren't the right guys. They're just not. Now, Michael Chandler, I do believe, is finally found a reason to do this fight. I mean, the fight does have a big problem. If you're going to fight, it's got to be for something. Titles makes sense. People understand it. And Daniel, don't forget the history of fighting. It used to be very important that your tribe or your village had somebody that was good at fighting, because if you did it and somebody else's tribe or village came, they would take what you have. They would take your life away. This was a big deal. Over time, the world became more civilized, and some promoter threw something out called a belt. Guys started to sacrifice their entire lives. You and I are those kinds of guys to go out and have that very belt. But that's not what it's about. It's not about a contendership. It's not about anything. It's not even about the made-up 165-pound belt that doesn't exist. This fight is for the UFC's most entertaining man, and Michael Chandler, for the first time, is stepping forward. I see your hand up, young man. Please, what is the question?
Yeah. It's like being a teacher, right? Like, I'm like, teacher, please call on me. I sit in the front of the class, Chael. I'm not one of those bad kids that sits all the way to the back. I'm in the front. I'm excitable. My hand went up while you're lecturing, Coach. Please,
I want to hear from you. What is the question, young man?
So here's my question. Do you believe that, okay, I know you said it's a made-up belt, but hypothetically, Chael, let's take our mind to a place where this does become something. Do you believe that it could be anyone? Doesn't it have to be these two? Because, as we learned in the Raquel Pennington versus Myra Boyne the Silva fight, when you have a vacant championship, if you don't put a name, right, it would have been better if Juliana Pena was in that fight, because that's a name people recognize. Do you not agree with me, Chael, that if it is a thing, and I know you're like, it's not going to be a thing, it needs to be, guys, can you do this, right? Can you say, 165-pound championship, I am going to take whoever the number 6 welterweight is in the world, and I'm going to take the number 5 or 6 lightweight in the world, I'm going to match them up at 165, and that's going to be our champion. Do you believe that that fight would garner the attention of taking those 2 lightweights, both guys with name value, and putting them in the matchup? Because I believe that by putting those 2 women in the bantamweight title fight, it felt like they were almost destined to fail and set up to fail, and then the fight didn't deliver, so it was like a double whammy for those 2. But if you had 2 names, I think people would have been more forgiving of who the champion became on that night.
Okay. Now, I want to make sure I got this straight. You, moments ago, brought an idea to the table as though it might come to fruition. I chopped that thing into pieces in expert fashion. You quickly pivoted and went to a hypothetical what if. What if are these the right guys? That was brilliant by you, by the way. And yes, you have got me. If we are, in fact, going to do a 165-pound title, these are the right 2 guys. Now, I will meet you there as long as you concede to the other side of the coin, which is, if we don't do a 165-pound title with these 2 guys, you and I stop talking about it. Whoever comes forward next and tries to say that we're going to do it, and look, if you're so desperate for a belt, and I do understand the importance to a belt, particularly to cap off an evening, let's add a lineage to the BMF. We already have a belt. We don't need to bring it out once every 2 or 3 years. It's what the fans like. It's what the locker room likes. I'm just saying we don't need 65. What we need is Mac Holloway possibly to bump up up there and put the BMF on the line, or for Max Holloway to step forward and tell the winner of Chandler Conor, I will see you 3 months later for the BMF. I like that idea better, partner, but you pivoting, very smart, and you do got me. If we're going to do it, these are the right guys to do it with.
I love that. I love that idea, Chael. But I believe the BMF title is what lends these guys to call in for the 165-pound title. Because when Nate Diaz was in Anaheim and he said to George Masvidal, I'm the baddest MF out there, and then they made that fight for New York City, everybody starts going, wait a minute. So there is a potential to add belts if we have the right dance partner. And you're right. If it ain't these 2 at 165, it ain't happening. Because here's the deal, Chael, and you and I can both agree on this. If there's going to be something made up, another championship, it would be for a guy with the star power of Conor McGregor. There will not be another person that comes behind him with that level of star power that the organization is willing to work with to try to make happy, to try to get inside the octagon, to try to make concessions for. If it's not him, it won't happen for anyone.